Good morning. How are you guys doing? Before we start chapter 4, just wanted to remind you that I am currently grading your papers and you will receive your grades probably approximately a week from this Wednesday. It takes me, I have around 100 papers to grade total. So it will take me a little over a week to finish. So I hope everybody's back to normal after the snowstorm or winter storm. I know we had a lot of electricity problems, a lot of issues. That's why I tried to push back your deadline to accommodate everyone. But you will start receiving those grades a week from Wednesday, so you'll have a feel for where you stay in the class. I will be emailing you individually. I do not post on Blackboard. I email each student individually what their grade is. So you will hear from me personally. Okay, so let's continue with chapter 4. In this chapter, we talk about civil liberties, when they play into during our times of crisis, what rights are expressed in the First Amendment, religious freedoms, how does the Bill of Rights actually protect us, especially when we're accused of criminal activity? And let's get to it. So, civil liberties, the definition of civil liberties, these are our rights, such as our freedom of speech, religion. They are fundamental so that we have some type of protection and something that the government can regulate to make sure that our rights are protected. So again, definition of civil liberties are rights such as freedom of speech and religion, are fundamental rights. So we as individuals are protected and that government can regulate to make sure that we are protected. So habeas corpus, those are the rights of individuals who have been arrested in jail. Before you go to a judge, you have to determine whether or not your detention is legal. For instance, we can't just throw anybody in jail. So we need to make sure that we are jailing people legally. So you have the early amendments to the Constitution, which outlines all of our civil liberties. Our first prohibits abridging, in other words, gives us our freedom of religion, speech, press. You always hear freedom of speech, freedom of press. All of that comes from our First Amendment. Second Amendment, our right to bear arms. In Texas, that's a very strong amendment. Third Amendment, quartering of soldiers and persons home during peacetime. And it goes through Fourth Amendment. It prohibits unreasonable searches. In other words, you have to have a warrant before you search the property, the premises. So in figure 4.2 of your textbook, it goes through all of our various amendments and how we get our rights. You've always heard about freedom of speech. Well, it's because it's our First Amendment in the Constitution. You've heard about our right to bear arms. It's because it's our Second Amendment in the Constitution. In table 4.1 of your textbook, it goes through and it's very specific. It's important to know the important ones. Again, if you're in Texas, the Second Amendment, your right to keep and bear arms, is extremely important. You've heard about double jeopardy, the fact that you cannot be charged for the same crime twice. That comes from our Fifth Amendment. The allowance of a speedy and public trial and a right to confront witnesses or a right to counsel, that comes from our Sixth. Civil liberties in times of crisis. They go through a couple of examples in your textbook. One of them is when Senator Joseph McCarthy, he was attached to an era noted for fear of communism and the use of fear tactics to suppress freedom of speech and belief. They accused him of being dishonest. They said he abused his powers. And guess what? That's what you have. That's what you refer to the McCarthy hearings. During the 1954 McCarthy hearings, McCarthy actually testifies on Communist Party organizations in the United States. So, civil liberties are usually invoked during times of crisis. We have our freedom of speech. A lot of people are saying, and we've noticed it, quite frankly, with college campuses. A lot of people are saying that their freedom of speech sometimes are invoked. A lot of people are saying that sometimes they're not allowed to be free with their points of opinion. We have to distinguish exactly what rights and expression. Does it invoke violence? Does it invoke any type of harm towards one another? If it does not, then you are allowed to express yourself, if you express yourself peacefully. Your textbook uses an example in 2002. You had a high school student and he had a banner in his class. And when his principal suspended him for the banner's message, because they felt it was about drugs because it said bong hits for Jesus, he sued, saying that his free speech was violated. This was a 2002 case. Relying on this, the Supreme Court said it is his right for free speech, and he did not extend the promotion of illegal drugs. So his sign said bong hits for Jesus. The principal thought he was promoting illegal or illicit drug activity. His sign was removed. He sued the school, and the Supreme Court agreed with the student. And they felt that the principal was not allowing this student his rights for free speech. Religious freedom. We always have to have something we call the separation of church and state. Our First Amendment allows us the right to have free exercise of religion. And so because of that, we've had many tests what is actually allowed in our school systems, for instance. You've seen in more recent years, people have questioned if we should be saying prayers at school activities. And you've had many states have individual takes on that. Some states will say that schools are allowed to have a moment of silence or prayers. Other states will say a moment of silence is at the extent to what you are allowed because of the separation of church and state. Our right to bear arms. We've seen that challenged many, many times. And each individual state will have their individual take. For instance, it is quite difficult to get gun licenses in states like Illinois compared to Texas. In Texas, we are very much a pro-Second Amendment, your right to bear arms state. And as such, you have open carry in Texas, where you don't have open carry in other states that make it more difficult and are not pro-Second Amendment states. Our criminal procedure. Many of us are not aware that the actual criminal procedure, everything from the time you are apprehended, even before then when a warrant has been issued, is outlined through our civil liberties. Our seizures and searches is outlined in our Fourth Amendment. Interrogations outlined in our Fifth Amendment. So it's not just something random. These are actual steps that if you are being apprehended, if you are being questioned, that you, as the person that is being questioned or apprehended, you have certain civil liberties that are outlined in your Constitution. Even our procedures for trial, our right to counsel, our right for an impartial jury, our double jeopardy, all of these are outlined by the various amendments in our civil liberties. Double jeopardy, sentencing and appeals. A lot of us feel that our justice system has become too harsh, and as such, you're seeing a change, and a swift change, in bail reform. For instance, in Harris County, with the switch of a lot of our district and criminal judges going from conservative to more middle of the road and liberal, you're seeing also a change in bail reform. So now we've gone from people saying that our criminal justice system is too harsh to now we're becoming too lenient, and many criminals are getting off on technicalities. So that's something that we will discuss as we proceed throughout when we go through our judicial chapter, and we also have specifically a criminal chapter. So we're going to attack both of those then. So that's it for chapter 4. And we're going to cover probably chapter 4 this week, chapter 5 next week. And I will have to adjust the syllabus and the calendar because we did not put in the 2 weeks that we had because of the winter storm. So you guys take care, and email me if you have any questions. Thank you.